So here we have 5 creepy and mysterious paranormal events to give you goosebumps. Hope you're ready for this one. Let's check it out.
We love it when viewers send us in unique stories, images and videos. And the following image is no exception. We were emailed by Chris, and we think that he might be onto something. He sent us in a very old photograph of a now demolished building in Hobart, Tasmania. Chris was looking through some archive photographs on the library's Tasmania website when he came across Roxburgh House. Built in 1820, the house was described at auction as a large, commodious 3-story stone building that, when finished, will be one of the delightful residences in or near Hobart Town. However, the years were not kind to the building, and after being converted into a hotel in 1834, known as the Golden Fleece, it soon fell into disrepair and earned the nickname the Rat's Castle, because homeless people made holes in the walls to gain entry and live there. Sadly, during that period, 2 babies died in the building. One sadly starved to death, and the other was laid on and killed by a drunk mother. In 1879, the Rat's Castle was demolished and the site sold to Scottish schoolmaster Alexander Ireland, and by 1880, the current Roxburgh House was built, with Scotch College conjoined to the rear. The college continued at the site until 1900, when it moved premises. Today, Roxburgh House has been converted into apartments. This image is of the house before it was demolished. It's clear that there is a man looking out of the top window on the right-hand side, and some bystanders by the front fence. But who is that ghostly-looking figure standing in the front doorway? Now, we have no more information on this building, so we cannot confirm whether or not it's haunted. This could just be a smudge on the photograph. But it's images like this that we know are 100% not fake that certainly make you question whether or not this old-school camera captured something strange. What do you think?
See, these are the type of images that bother you, bro. Because you know it was a time, this was taken back in a time before you could really doctor film and footage and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So when I think about or see stuff like this, I'm more inclined to believe it. And then look at the history of this place. Yeah. You know what I mean? The backstory is the lives that was lost. And then they called it the rat something. I forgot what he said, the rat something, the whole rat or something like that, because of the homeless people that would tunnel through the walls and crawl in there to live. So imagine what took place inside of there. The 2 deaths that we talked about, those are the ones we know of. Imagine what else took place in there. So then with all of that playing out in my mind of what the possibilities of things that could have happened in there, when I look at this photo, I'm like, yeah, I do believe that could be a ghost of maybe one of them or something else or something. I don't like it.
Captured something strange. What do you think? The Demon of Brownsville Road. Since he was a small boy, Bobby Cramer felt strangely drawn to a house on Brownsville Road in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And as an adult with a young family, he was delighted when the old Victorian house came up for sale. Thinking it was the perfect home for his growing family, he put in a lowball offer and was surprised and delighted it was accepted without any negotiations. However, a strange thing happened when the family revisited the house to measure up. Bob's young son, Bobby Jr., wandered off and was later found crying and hyperventilating by a staircase, seemingly terrified by an unseen force.
This is how most movies or horror movies start out. The family moving into either an old home that a relative left them, an old home that everyone loved, i.e. like this one in the neighborhood or something like that. Somebody passed away and left this old home to them, a long lost relative or something. It always starts like this. And then you get in there and it's things happening, it's things going on, and the walls are bleeding, or somebody gets possessed or something. It's always, have y'all noticed that? Like stuff like that, I keep in the back of my brain, bro. Don't leave me nothing behind, no old home or nothing. No, don't do it.
Bob's young son, Bobby Jr., wandered off and was later found crying and hyperventilating by a staircase, seemingly terrified by an unseen force. Bob later asked the sailor if there was anything wrong with the house, but the sailor assured him that the house was fine, and that Catholic Mass was conducted several times in the living room of the house, which in hindsight was an odd response. In 1988, Bob, his wife Lisa, and their 4 young children moved into 3406 Brownsville Road. Despite Lisa telling Bob the place gave her the creeps, and almost immediately the family realized they were not alone in the house.
You're right. Trust your instincts and your gut. Trust it, man. Y'all be right. Y'all be right. It's at least one person in the relationship or in the family with a level head. Listen to that person's gut.
Place gave her the creeps, and almost immediately the family realized they were not alone in the house, and were sharing it with one or more malevolent spirits. The first thing they noticed was the pull chain light in a coat closet continuously wrapped itself around the light and would never remain in the hanging position, no matter how often they repositioned it. This was followed by minor nuisances, like lights turning on by themselves and doors opening and shutting. However, things got more sinister, especially for Bobby Jr., who refused to sleep in his bedroom, preferring to sleep in a closet with the light on. Also, a ghost began.
That's odd. What kid you know likes to sleep in a closet? That's the most terrifying place in the house for a kid. If you've had kids, then you know what they call you in the room. Say something in my closet. Something in my closet. Can you leave the light on? I'm scared. Something in my closet or under the bed. This kid preferred to sleep in the closet. That's different, bro. I've never seen that before. That's different.
However, things got more sinister, especially for Bobby Jr., who refused to sleep in his bedroom, preferring to sleep in a closet with the light on. Also, a ghost began to make its presence felt, sometimes manifesting as a black, foggy cloud, and sometimes as a foul stench. The family heard footsteps and unexplained sounds, and found bent crucifixes and destroyed rosaries scattered around the property. A few months later, Bob found a small metal box buried in the front yard. Inside were Catholic religious items. Disturbed by what he had found, Bob called the previous owners, who in no uncertain terms told him, "Just put it back where you found it."
Right.
The following years were torturous for the family, and they became increasingly dysfunctional, with Lisa and 2 of the children suffering from significant mental health issues. Things came to a head in 2003 when Bob's eldest son attacked him and Bob was arrested, although no charges were brought. After the incidents, the paranormal activity in the house increased tenfold, and eventually Bob sought assistance from the Catholic Church. Several priests and 1 lay person began a lengthy battle to cleanse the house from the demonic spirit they believed lived there. It would be 2 years before the infestation was released. Kramer, who was a former Republic County Commissioner of Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, went on to write a book about his experiences that he called The Demons of Brownsville Road. The book was released in 2014 with great media acclaim, and Bob's reputation as a public official added credibility to the story. You can pick the book up in the description below. However, family members of the previous owners of the house, who Bob talked about in the book using pseudonyms, were less than impressed, claiming that the story was fabricated and disrespected the memory of their relatives. Today, Bob still owns the house and has opened it as a bed and breakfast. However, the years have not been kind to him. In March 2015, his son David died unexpectedly, and his wife went into a deep depression. And after 37 years, their marriage ended in 2018.
And there's no way you could probably tell him it wasn't related. Everything that's happening to him or in his life wasn't related to that house. There's no way you could probably tell him that. You wouldn't be able to tell me. Like, we gotta be careful of what we place ourselves in. We can't be around this type of stuff and energy and vibe. She told him she had a bad feeling about this place, man. And now you'll spend the rest of your life wondering if your life would have been different if you'd have never moved into this place. Be careful, man, what you subject yourself to.
And after 37 years, their marriage ended in 2018.
37 years.
We wonder if anyone has ever stayed at this house. And if so, what was it like?
Whew. Wow.
The TeTe. The TeTe is the terrifying tale of a Japanese girl who fell onto a railway line and was cut in two, and whose vengeful spirit lurks in train stations and urban streets, preying on unsuspecting passers-by. Due to horrific injuries, TeTe has no lower body and travels along on her hands carrying a razor-sharp scythe. She is often portrayed as having long black hair and claws instead of fingernails that help her drag her mutilated body around. The young woman earned the nickname TeTe because that is the sound she makes as she moves along the concrete paths. She is widely believed to be the spirit of a woman named Kashima Raiko. According to legend, at the end of World War II, Kashima worked in an office, and as she walked home one evening, she was assaulted by military personnel who left her badly injured on the railway line. As she struggled to get to safety, she was hit by a train and cut in half. However, she was not instantly killed, and it was so cold that night that her blood vessels contracted and prevented her from bleeding to death. Instead, she writhed around in pain on the track until she was spotted by an attendant, but instead of trying to help her, he covered her in a plastic bag and left her to die a slow, agonizing death. It is said that if you encounter Kashima in a public bathroom, she will ask if you know where her legs are.
Now she mad at everybody. That dude would have got her some help. No one would have had to suffer. Blame him. Maybe we need to find him and take him to her. You know what I'm saying? Like, blame him. Don't make the rest of us suffer for his mistake. Jeez.
Said that if you encounter Kashima in a public bathroom, she will ask if you know where her legs are, and if the reply you give is not acceptable to her, she will take revenge and cut your legs off with her scythe. The only way to appease her spirit is to tell her that her legs are on the Machine Expressway, or say the phrase Kamen Shinemai. These answers will supposedly spare your life. Although if you encounter TeTe in the suburbs or in the train station, she will chase you and cut your body in half, mimicking her own horrific death and disfigurement. This is one to remember if you ever find yourself visiting the Japanese suburbs or subways.
So, anybody planning on going and getting on a Japanese subway, you may want to rewind this over and over, study it, learn it. That way, just in case you're in a situation where you need to remember what to say, you need to keep watching this video over and over. I ain't even going there, and I'm going to learn it. When this video is over, I will learn that. That will always be in my back pocket.
The ghosts of the TeTe Trianon. In the summer of 1909, Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain travelled from England to Paris on a 3-week sightseeing trip. When they arrived, they looked around the palace and then decided to visit the TeTe Trianon, a small chateau that the newly crowned Louis XIV gave to his young queen, Mary Antoinette. But when they arrived, it was closed, so the pair continued walking and soon realized they were lost. As they looked around, Charlotte noticed a building and saw a woman in the window shaking a white cloth. At the time, Eleanor saw a deserted farmhouse with an old plough at the side. Neither woman said anything, but felt a strange oppression come over them. As they continued walking, they noticed 2 men in the distance with wheelbarrows and spades. Initially they thought the men were gardeners, but as they got closer, they realized they were dressed in long greyish-green coats, wearing tri-cornered hats, which was not usual gardener's attire. They asked the men the way and were told to continue straight ahead. Eleanor then noticed a cottage with a woman and girl standing in the doorway. Both had a white handkerchief tucked into their bodice. She later described the two as similar to a pair of wax figures rather than human beings. Soon the ladies found themselves in a small wooded area with a circular garden pavilion. A man was sitting there wearing a cloak and a large sun hat. The place was lifeless, flat and fake-looking, with no light, shade or shadows, and no wind in the trees. The man turned and looked at the two women. His face was repulsive and dark, with smallpox scars, and he stared at them with an expression of hate. They were then surprised by another man who approached them. He was tall and handsome with dark eyes, wearing a large hat that was hiding his dark curly hair. He directed them to proceed to the right, where they passed over a small bridge. Charlotte then saw a regal-looking woman sitting on a stool who appeared to be sketching. As the women got closer, the lady turned to look at them. Her face was pretty but older, and she was wearing a white hat with light-coloured hair and an old-fashioned long summer dress. Without speaking, Charlotte and Eleanor left the area. As they walked, Charlotte could see the lady again, but this time she was wearing a pale green shawl. Shortly after, both ladies left the area and headed back. The women didn't speak about what had happened until a week later, when they both wrote down separate versions of what they encountered and compared notes. They then decided to revisit the Trianon Gardens, but this time did not encounter any of the specific things they had seen previously. And strangely, the pavilion and bridge were gone. After doing some research, both ladies were convinced Trianon was haunted, and that the lady in the regal dress was the ghost of Marie Antoinette. Many years later, in 1911, the ladies published the story of their strange trip under the pseudonyms Elizabeth Morrison and Frances Lamont. Critics judged that the tale was unlikely, and suggested that the two women had misinterpreted already known cases of paranormal activity in the area. However, parapsychologists had a different take on the story, and proposed that the women had experienced a time slip or some form of retrocognition. What is fascinating about this case is that both women maintained the authenticity of what they had seen until the day they died, and their true identities as the authors of the book were not made public until 1931.
And see, that's still why people don't come forward to this day. Scared of how you be perceived or viewed. Like, that is the reason right there, man. People don't want to believe you. Just look at all the UFO stuff going on to this day. Those dudes are looked at crazy. May not have a job to go back to or a career. Like, that's crazy that it was going on way back then as well. It was probably even worse.
The curious case of Robert Johnson, the man who sold his soul to the devil. Robert Johnson from Hazelhurst, Mississippi, was an American blues musician and songwriter who, as a traveling performer, had little commercial success in his short lifetime. He only ever participated in 2 recording sessions in 1936. However, these landmark recordings displayed a talent and style that has influenced a generation of musicians, and he is now recognized as a master of the Delta blues, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame describes him as being the first ever rock star. His unique guitar style went on to influence rock guitarists like Peter Green, Eric Clapton, and Keith Richards. Robert died on August 16, 1938, near Greenwood, Mississippi, at the age of 27. His cause of death is unknown. No formal autopsy was ever performed, and his death certificate only listed the date and location of his demise. It is suspected he had congenital syphilis, and that may have contributed to his early death, although there are some that say he was poisoned by the jealous husband of a woman he was flirting with. Similar to his cause of death, where he is buried is also a mystery, with 3 different markers claiming to be his grave. The ongoing mystery about Robert's life and death has spawned various legends, the most prominent being that he sold his soul to the devil in exchange for musical genius.
I knew it. That's what I was waiting to hear. I was sitting here the entire time thinking to myself, okay, what would he do that for? Why would he do that? And I was like, I wonder if it was to give him musical talents or some type of talent or something like that in exchange. It had to be something. I knew it was that.
According to legend, Johnson dreamed of becoming a great blues musician, but he was absolutely useless at playing the guitar. However, one night, a powerful force instructed him to take his guitar to a crossroads, where he met with the devil, who took his guitar and tuned it. He then returned the instrument to Robert in exchange for his soul. Like everything about Robert, where the crossroads is located is disputed, but is widely believed to be at the intersection of Highway 61 and Highway 49 in Clarksdale, Coahoma County, Mississippi. Another suggested location is Rosedale, Mississippi. Johnson's song Crossroad Blues is supposedly about the day he met the devil. So what do you think? Was the devil responsible for Robert Johnson's overnight transformation into a musical genius, or is there a more plausible explanation? What do you think?
I think I hate hearing stories like that, man, because I always feel like somebody's gonna hear that and then be wanting something so bad that they'll attempt to do that same thing. You know what I'm saying? And trust me, I know people don't need to see this video or hear that to already be doing that, but it's still some that haven't thought of that or haven't done it, and they'll hear this and strongly consider it. Man, don't do it, bro. Just continue to work hard. All of us have to work hard. Some people are lucky, but for the most part, most of us gotta work hard, man. But listen, this is some crazy stuff, bro. And it's crazy to me that stories out there like this exist. All of these 5 creepy and mysterious stories. That's crazy that they exist. Y'all get at me in the comment section, man. Let me know what you think. And stick around and stay tuned. Till next one, I'm gone.